You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
In Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in tonight to the Six Screens Telenetwork. My name is Rick Farron, and I'm coming to you from up here in Boston, Massachusetts. But we normally would have Barbara on. It's still going to be her program. Barbara is having some issues this week. She hurt her back, and she's been in some pain. So I talked to her this week, and she said she may not come on, but she wanted me to play some tapes that she wanted her audience to hear. So we'll play some of those tapes. Now, friends, many of you are probably just getting out of the Watchtower. I've been seeing some comments here. We have some PMEs listening in, just leaving the Watchtower. So welcome in here if this is your very first time. Now, I wanted to make a couple of things very, very clear here tonight. In fact, before all of the videos that you see on YouTube and Facebook these days, if you roll the clocks back, just say 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have all of these YouTube clips, but we relied on sound clips. As a matter of fact, even in 2005, when Satan kicked me out of his organization, I actually did a secret recording of my disfellowship judicial hearing. And at that time, that's the only thing you can really do is do audio clips. But today we're actually seeing video clips of disfellowshipping judicial committee hearings. So we're glad that videos are now available. But I want to mention that, audio clips years ago helped me get out of the Watchtower. In fact, some of the more creative, or at least the ones that made a lasting impression in my mind, that really moved me from being a witness and now not being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, was a man by the name of Charles Sonutko. Well, he was a district overseer at the time, and this was in 1970, I believe 73, 74. And Sonutko gave a talk at a convention, and it was all about staying alive till 1975. And that audio clip today, I wish I had time to get it up here for you, but that audio clip today is a very embarrassing audio clip for the Watchtower. It was said right in that audio, right in that talk that Sonutko gave at the convention, that 75 was going to be it. That's when Armageddon was going to come. No ands, no ifs about it. So, that audio clip really helped me to move aside from the Watchtower. And then another audio clip I remember that was really, really powerful was Ray Franz, president of the Watchtower. And he, at the time, he talked about no new anointed ones after 1935. And that's a clip also that came home to haunt the Watchtower. We know there's been a lot of new anointed ones after 1935, but he said it right in a talk, and it was so clearly stated, no new additions. But friends, right now in the Watchtower organization, there's 21 million Jehovah's Witnesses that partake. Where'd they come from? So, it's just some of these audio clips made a big difference. Well, today I have a number of clips that Barbara Anderson sent to me. I want you to sit back and relax. Now, another thing we heard a lot of in, say, the last 10 years is people calling the Watchtower and, trying to get them to speak up and say things. I've done that myself. And maybe some of you folks out there have called the Watchtower, and you have them all recorded on how silly and stupid sometimes the Watchtower Bethelites react in the service department to questions asked. But tonight, what we have is a number of clips that Barbara Anderson actually sent me. And I'll just give you the names of some of these. There's a man by the name, was a good friend of Barbara Anderson. His name was Furbacher. That was his name, Furbacher. That was his last name, a German brother. And he knew a lot of the officials. He was somewhat of an official of the Watchtower himself. And he mucked with all the bigwigs. And we have him on recording here talking to different people. We have him talking to Don Adams, who was a big official of Watchtower one time and later became the president of Watchtower. So we have him talking on tape. We have also a conversation with a brother Wallen, another official of the Watchtower. And you can really get the feeling of what these people are saying and what's on their mind. And as you listen to some of these tapes tonight, I want you to really just carefully consider the conversation. Well, listen to what's being said. And I want you to make the analysis. Is this really Jehovah's organization? So you be the judge on that. So you're going to hear some of these clips. So why don't we start off right now? Let me just take a look at one of the clips that we do have here, and let's see if we can't get it to. Okay, here's one here. We're going to start off with. Now we all know. Hold on one second. Let me just hold up. Okay, so here we do have a brother Furbacker. He is actually calling and talking to Jarrett's. Now, Jarrett's was a governing body member and a really a mean, cruel person. I want you listening tonight to his conversation. That would be with Ted Jarrett's. So why don't you listen in, sit back and relax. And then at the end of the clip, we'll play some more. We'll get some thoughts on what was said. And maybe if you have some thoughts on it as well and you like to dial in, I'll put a number up on YouTube. You could call in. And Barbara's not with us, but hopefully I can answer the question for you. So let's see what happens here. So let's play the clip.
August 27th, 2001.
It's 9:08 a.m. where you're calling. Good morning, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Good morning. Could you connect me with Brother Jarris's office, please?
One moment, please. May I ask who's calling?
Yes, my name is Alan Feuerbacher.
Thank you. One moment.
Hello, Jarris.
Hi, Brother Jarris.
Yes.
Hi. I don't think you know me, but I've heard you speak at many district assemblies, and I wanted to tell you some things I think you'd find of interest if you have some time. Would you have some time to talk?
You're in Bethel?
Oh, no, I'm outside.
Well, you're in the field. Where are you located?
I live in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is that there's been a lot of churning away out with respect to the some accusations against the society that it has not handled child molestation cases properly, and I've done quite a bit of searching, researching, and talking to people about what that's all about, and I've come to understand some things about an NBC Dateline program that's in the works, and so on. I'm sure you're familiar with that sort of thing, but I may know some things that perhaps you don't, and I thought perhaps you should take account of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've heard that there was something in the wind about a program. We haven't got any details on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We don't know what they're going to come up with. News media oftentimes it comes up with different things as they have in the past.
Uh-huh.
So which direction it's going to take, we don't know. Sometimes they publicize something that's favorable, and on other occasions they misrepresent the organization and get into areas where perhaps they're not totally familiar with what you're doing.
Sure. Well, I guess part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is, well, for one thing, you and I have a little bit in common in the sense that we have an old friend that I understand we have in common, Brother Mike Haraxi.
Oh, yeah, I know Mike very well.
Yeah, okay. I haven't seen Mike in about 9 years, and I understand that he's in a home now because of his health. You know, he's had terrible phlebitis and all that.
I know he was ailing. The last time I was in touch with him, he wasn't feeling too good.
Yeah, but he was my presiding overseer back in the '70s when I was in the Manhasset congregation on Long Island. And, he was well, he was quite a character.
Yeah, he's a good brother. He's
Oh, I know it.
loyal, stable, and staunch.
I know it. My parents have known him since back in the '40s when they were in the Jamaica congregation. So yeah.
He's gone through a lot of stormy periods, but he's
Oh, yeah.
remained steadfast,
Oh yeah.
immovable, one of those pillars
Oh yeah.
in support of the truth.
And one time, Mike, I have to look back on this and laugh now. But one time, Mike, he got me up in front of the whole congregation and said, "I want to use you as a demonstration." And what he really did was he kind of tricked me into singing a kingdom song in front of the whole congregation, unaccompanied and all by myself. And then he says, "Now see how that sounds? Now you young brothers come up here and sing the song together." And so they all did. And then he says, "Now see how much better that sounds than Alan singing alone."
Well, I guess he had a point.
He had a point, but
Unless you had a good voice.
I didn't.
Yeah, well, that's Mike.
Yeah, that's Mike. Well, at any rate, I wanted to talk to you because I've been told that you're very concerned with the spirituality of the brothers, and you're also extremely concerned with the preaching work. As I understand, you're one of the few people in a position of really high authority within the society that
Well, I'm just
actually goes in field service.
one of the
So
brothers from the
it's,
governing body.
yeah, I
We
know,
sort of share equal authority, but
I know.
we do have our diverse responsibilities.
Yep. I wanted to mention to you that the problem of child molestation, as you're no doubt perfectly well aware, is something that lasts. When it happens to someone, it lasts basically forever. My wife's family, it turns out, had one of her sisters married into a family actually that had a molestation problem that began, it's over 50 years ago. And it turned out that the man he was a brother, but he was not obviously a very good witness, but probably before 1950, began molesting his first young son. He did it to his second son, and then when the little girl came along, which is really the point of the story, he started in on her, and she told us about some of the things that he did, and it's just what her father did was absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's hard to even describe it because it's so graphic. And
Well, it's an abhorrent thing. It's
Yeah.
detestable according to the Bible.
I mean, I just about got tears in my eyes when I heard her say that one of her earliest memories was her father ejaculating into her mouth when she was about 3 or 4 years old. If you can imagine that.
Yeah, that's repugnant.
Yeah, it really is.
Person is totally, he's corrupted.
Absolutely. Well, it turned out, and she got to be about 10 years old, the man killed himself. And apparently he, as near as anybody can tell, he decided that the little girl was about to spill the beans, and so he killed himself. And this lady has been in and out of the truth for her entire life. She's had 4 husbands. She was disfellowshipped 3 or 4 times, And I mean, this is the kind of broken person that this kind of thing produces. And I've kind of gotten very how shall I say, angry that this kind of thing happens. But there's of course not much to be done about it, because in this corrupt society that we live in, it's very common.
Well, it's no doubt very widespread out there in the world, and of course it sometimes seeps over and affects people even who associate with the organization.
Absolutely. I remember when I was still living in Portland, Oregon, about 5 or 6 years ago. I heard a story on the radio that said that a man who was one of Jehovah's Witnesses from Woodland, Washington, was arrested, and that he confessed to molesting something like 35 young boys over a period of 20 years. And I couldn't believe my ears. So I called up the police department there and I said, "What's the story on this? Is this for real? Is this on the level?" And they told me, "Yeah, the guy really did confess to that." And that brings up a very interesting question: is how in the world any man, especially one of Jehovah's Witnesses, could possibly get away with molesting that many young boys for a period of 20 years? It's just beyond belief.
Well, usually the judicial committee would just expel him from the congregation. You'd report him if that's required, and the authorities would deal with him as they had.
Sure.
Because the scripture says, "Let none of you suffer as an evildoer or a murderer or a busybody." In other words, people who are hardened and callous in wrongdoing, well, then they're going to suffer the consequences.
Sure.
And they have to recognize they're reaping what they sow. Well, we certainly don't want to like that.
But the very fact that the man was not expelled seems to indicate that that many parents and perhaps even brothers were simply covering up for him, because it's simply not possible for 35 boys over that length of time for at least some of them not to report to their parents what had happened
Well,
to them.
that's why Leviticus 5:1 says that if people hear any reports of wrongdoing, they should reveal that so that action can be taken. That was the basic requirement in the nation of Israel. The principle of that is applicable today also. And if people try to hide such things or cover them over, well, of course, eventually, sooner or later, it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it has to be dealt with.
Sure.
Because, this matter has, in recent years, escalated. And that's what I say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not only to safeguard the youngsters and to alert the parents, but also to make sure that such individuals do not corrupt others. Because that's been widespread. I remember when I was a boy, this was very widespread out there in the world among people who were in very responsible positions in government. And it's still practiced in many parts of the world.
Oh yeah. It's
But you see, it's an abhorrent practice. That's why the Bible says, "Abhor what is wicked."
Sure.
And cling to what is good. So people, like the psalmist says, "You, O you lovers of Jehovah, hate what is bad." Well, Jehovah hates such practices. He finds them detestable, and then that's the way the language appears in the scriptures about how Jehovah views things.
Mm-hmm.
Romans chapter 1, where Paul wrote about all these devious sexual practices and the homosexuality, lesbianism, and then, of course, child abuse would have to come into the picture too. It's gross forms of immorality. And it shows that some people not only consent with those who practice this, but they're worthy, you see, of being cut off.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, our position, of course, should be very clear on this. And the scriptures, of course, that's the basis for the position that any Christian should take. But if people soft pedal such things, you see, then what they're doing is they're allowing such things to creep into their life, affects their thinking, and of course it can even affect a congregation.
Oh, of
That's
course.
why elders have to be alert to such developments and deal with them.
Yeah. Oh, of course. The in the course of my work, I have a lot of time on my hands in terms of being able to look various news reports about you name it. Sometimes I wish I didn't have so much free time on my hands during the day, but that's what my job allows. So anyway, you got to do something. Anyway, I saw that there was a report, in fact, of a recent trial in Washington about a man who was an abuser, and I did some checking around, and it turned out that, well, he denied the charges, but um, there was a story that was on the internet that said that the man was convicted a second time, maybe a couple of weeks ago, uh, and was hauled off to prison. But the interesting thing about it was that, well, he was an elder, which is the real unfortunate part, and he had hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, he had apparently abused this young girl, and the particularly nasty part of it was when she moved to another state, he apparently called up one of his friends who was also an elder, the story claims, and he began abusing her. And I can't believe my ears, but this is this apparently is exactly the kind of thing that goes on in the world, and and it pains me so much that this occurs within the organization.
Well, it brings reproach. If
You know.
those things occur, they bring reproach on the organization, but it also shows that such individuals do not organization.
Mm-hmm.
See, to maintain a clean organization, you always have to follow Bible principles. Make sure that that is administered so that Jehovah's favor always stays with the organization.
Mm-hmm.
But imperfect as people are, you see, some of them are going to be overreached by these things. That's why we had a talk at the district convention about the plague of pornography. You see, that also leads to things of this nature, because when people they get involved with pornography, whether it's in print, literature, or on the internet, well, then they get swept up with all of that. And
Oh, I know it.
first thing you know, they're taken captive, and the devil, of course, corrupts their mind, and then they corrupt others. That's one reason why the scripture says bad associations spoil useful habits. We should have nothing to do with associates like that, whether it's in person physically in contact with us, or somebody that comes into the home through the internet or the television programs. The media today, you see, conveys so much of this sordid stuff, and people are saturated with it.
Oh, I know it.
That's one reason why the scriptures show that the whole system is corrupt under the power of the devil. And he's always corrupted humanity, and he's used perverted sexual relationships, to his end.
I know
Just
it.
like he did in the days before the flood. The nation of Israel, they fell into this trap repeatedly. I think the drama at the convention last year about warning examples for our day shows how Balaam, induced the Israelites to commit fornication with the Moabite women. So all of this is a warning. Well, if people don't take it to heart, you see, they're going to reach the things that are out there in the world, and the whole world is unclean. Babylon the Great is unclean. Well, if we touch the unclean thing, we become unclean.
Sure. I'll tell you, that's one thing I've learned with the internet is you have to be very careful. But I've gone on some, hunting expeditions for information and gotten on inadvertently on a website that had pornography on it. And
sometimes
people,
youngsters get involved.
Yeah. And what a lot of these people do is I experienced this, that they will put some kind of software there that pops up pornographic pictures and advertisements up. They pop them up so fast you can't even get rid of them. I had my computer crash one time because it was like boom, 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 and I couldn't stop it.
Well, that's
So
why you
it's,
see you've got all kind of insidious things that are happening out there, because the kind of people that are dealing with all this, they're the ones that are sowing these seeds,
Sure.
and they want to spread their.
What you're listening to here is a man by the name of Furbacher, Brother Furbacher. He's a German name, and he is talking on the telephone with governing body member Jarrett's at the time, Ted Jarrett's. And that's the conversation that you're hearing. Now, these tapes have been sent to me by Barbara Anderson. She could not come on the program tonight. But Barbara Anderson wanted me to play these tapes. These are tapes that you never heard before. And these are officials talking to one another at the Watchtower. So here we have Furbacher. He is talking with Jarrett's, and he is talking about the, well, this is going back now. This is many years ago, but this goes back around the year 2000, 2001, right before the Dateline show that Barbara came on. And, just then that the media started to pick up on the atrocities, the sexual child abuse that was taking place in the Watchtower. So Jarrett's, he's kind of playing Mickey the Dunce here, like, he hasn't really heard everything about it, but he knows darn well about it. So Furbacher is just being very nice. He's a very well-mannered man, and as you hear, he's talking in a very conversational style with the governing body member Jarrett's. I'm even surprised that Jarrett's took the time and the consideration to talk with Furbacher. But Jarrett's is not denying anything here. And at the end of this clip, I'm going to give you some thoughts of my own concerning Jarrett's. So we'll play some more of it. We get some more tapes that maybe you never heard tonight. Barbara could not come on. She has a sore back tonight. She's been in some pain. So she asked if I could just kind of play the clips and kind of fill in for her tonight. So hang in and listen. I mean, these are classic. These, friends, I have to tell you, audio clips have brought a lot of people out of the Watchtower, including me. And maybe an audio clip has brought you out of the Watchtower. So listen in, and we'll get your thoughts on it when the clip is over. I want to get your thoughts on it. Here's some other clips I want to play you as well. So I'm glad you're with us. I'm glad you're listening in. I'm listening intently myself. So let's go back to Alan Furbacher and also Ted Jarrett's. That's a conversation you're hearing right now on our Six Queens program.
The various work. That's why, the Bible says, put up a hard fight for the faith. You got to resist all of that. You almost have to close yourself off from all those things in the world in order to protect yourself.
Sure. Now, that gets into the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about. I found last, I guess it was late last winter, in our local newspaper here, just a little town in called Fort Collins in Colorado, about an hour north of Denver is where I live. Our newspaper had an article about an elder in Kentucky, I believe it was, who had resigned fairly recently and then accused the society of I believe he was saying, covering up cases of child molestation within the organization. And frankly, like he claims, but I did quite a bit of checking around and found that he's not just somebody that's completely off the wall like I thought at first. There is some basis for what he was claiming, and at this point, as I understand, he has gotten the attention of quite a few news organizations, including the TV show NBC Dateline. And I understand that there's going to be quite an extensive program that covers this. From what I understand, there'll be certain people who are no longer Jehovah's Witnesses who will be speaking on the show, and there will also be a number of people who claim to have been victims of a misguided policy, I guess you would say, who will be telling their stories. It'll be interesting to see whether or not these people are believable or not.
I don't know what they're going to say yet. I guess
No.
you have to wait till the presentation is made and see just what kind of information they have. What the source of their information is, I don't know. But as far as the principles that guide elders is concerned, that is always scripturally based. It has to be.
Of course.
Because if you don't follow the Bible principles, you can't substitute for what's in the scriptures, and you've got to balance it out. So if people are established as guilty of wrongdoing, well, then they have to be dealt with accordingly. If the person, of course, and it's a first offense and he's totally repentant, produces fruits worthy of repentance, well, then they have to be dealt with accordingly. In certain states, they have laws that you have to report these things, so that has to be done. And you have to conform to it because that's a requirement of Caesar. So the policy that the society has is always in keeping with the Bible. That's our safeguard. If we were to venture out and start to do things, by force of expediency like you have with a lot of legislation out there in the world, then you get into a maze of confusion, and people go off into all different directions. Many of these religious organizations, they have no scripturally based policy. It all depends on what may be advantageous for that particular religious group. So they may sanction certain things that the Bible condemns, but they try to explain it away. Well, that's our genetics. That's what we've inherited. We can't help ourselves. But the Bible says you can put on a new personality. You've got to make changes. And if you don't make those changes, well, then you can't be acceptable to Jehovah, because we have to prove what is right in his eyes and conform to his will. See, that's where people have to really take seriously their relationship with God. And if they don't watch that, well, you see, then they make light of those principles and they feel they're exceptions. But the Bible doesn't deal with make exceptions for people, because principles apply to everybody without partiality. So if whatever some people claim, what they claim and what the facts are may be two different things. There's two sides to every story. In every case that is handled judicially has to be handled according to the facts of the case and the individual involved. When the evidence comes together, well, then the Bible tells us how to make the decision. Jehovah. It's we are judging for Jehovah, not judging according to our own human inclinations. If we bypass Bible principles, then our judgment's going to be faulty, and we're going to make mistakes. That's why we have an appeal arrangement in some cases, so that another committee can review it. So if there is something out of line, why correction or adjustment can be made. But we can recognize that within Jehovah's organization, by and large, the righteous principles of Jehovah govern. We can't set them aside.
Sure.
And so many people in the world, you see, they don't have all the facts. We've had that happen in the past with individuals. When I first learned the truth, I was out in the Midwest, and I didn't know anything about, people who had gone apostate or had deviated from the faith. But whenever they brought something up, I always went to the scriptures and quoted the scriptures. Well, some of these people, they didn't want to expose themselves to persecution. They didn't want to go from door to door. They didn't want to, be rejected if somebody didn't accept the message. But I always felt, well, if we don't do this, how are we going to experience what Jesus said? They're going to be persecuting you just like they persecuted me. You're going to be hated. You're going to be viewed as unpopular. Well, when you experience that, well, you know that you're on the right track. And then others of honest heart, the sheep-like ones, they listen to you. And you find joy in preaching to them and making a disciples. And that's what brings joy to the heavenly hosts. When one person repents and turns back from his wicked course, well, then it's a joy to them more than over 99 that don't need to repent.
Sure.
Well, those are the experiences that we have. But there's going to be, in the world, like Jesus said, you're going to have tribulation. But be of good courage. I've conquered false accusations that were leveled at him because they said he was a demon, he was a blasphemer. and that he wasn't worthy to live. But Jesus endured all that. He suffered evil because he learned obedience by the things that he went through. But he was an object of hostility. He was a promised seed. So Christians today are not going to be immune from attacks from the world. That's
Sure.
bound to happen.
Oh, is it?
Honest-hearted people, they see what Jehovah's Witnesses are like. They know what kind of lives that we lead, what we stand for, and in their own mind, they can sort out those that are truly righteous and those that are wicked. Just like Malachi 3:16 says, that Jehovah would show the distinction between the righteous man and the wicked one, between one who is doing what right and those who are not doing so.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that division taking place today.
Yeah, it's true. There are an awful lot of things happening that show that.
Some of those things, it's just like Jesus said, if it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived, but the elect are not going to be deceived. There's so much deception out there. And like Paul, when he wrote his letter to the Corinthians, he says, somehow I'm afraid that just like the serpent seduced Eve by his cunning, you also might be corrupted away from the sincerity and chastity that are due to Christ. And you notice he used the word chastity.
Mm-hmm.
So people can be corrupted in their minds, in their thinking, and their thinking is distorted.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes the Bible principles to set things straight. Like Paul says, all scripture is inspired of God and beneficial for setting things straight. Not only in our thinking, but our conduct and the way we handle problems. Those problems today are and you think of the world out there, look at the problems that people have to handle in the social field, in government. And it's just beyond them. It overwhelms them. Well, to us, that's why if we don't get involved in those things, because we're no part of the world, we spare ourselves a lot of anxiety. And when it comes to morality, we know that this world is sunk into the sink of debauchery. It's at its lowest ebb, just like it was in the days of Noah and in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. We have a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah today.
Oh, it's
going from bad to worse.
Sure.
I often think of youngsters going to school. They teach them immorality. They even can promote it. And because they don't know how to handle things, they, for the sake of expedience, say, well, you don't practice abstention. You can be promiscuous, but be very careful. Well, the Bible tells us not to even touch the unclean thing. Don't even get involved with those things.
Yeah, it's true. My daughter has a real struggle with
it's
with
a challenge
dealing with boys and
school
and all that. It's
because their mind's in the gutter.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And
well, we can see that the way that everything is going it's got to come out to head. It's got to be climaxed at the end with this with the removal of this sordid system that comes off the face of the earth. Otherwise, the Bible says back in Noah's day, all flesh ruined its way on the earth. Well, look what's happening today. They're actually ruining themselves morally and physically and mentally. Look at the mental cases there are out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know it.
To keep yourself balanced and stable, you see, you have to avoid a lot of that thinking up with this swirly propaganda.
Well, many of the brothers are wondering how close the end might be because of these things, and it's of course no one should speculate about that.
Now, we don't know the day nor the hour, but you can certainly see, like Paul says, wicked men and impostors will go from bad to worse.
Sure.
Deceiving or misleading and being misled. Not only are they misled, they mislead others. You see.
Sure.
And like Jesus said, if the blind lead the blind, where are they going to wind up?
Sure. Well, that kind of brings me back around to one of the things I wanted to mention, because it seems to me that the organization these days is kind of coming under an attack, especially from these various, on this particular issue of child molestation and all, but in other ways as well. I have to relate a story to you. I don't know, a month or two ago, someone that I occasionally correspond with, a brother in California, told me that he sent to you a letter that contained a complaint about a supposed brother who was putting out all sorts of information on the internet against the organization. And he told me that the letter was anonymous, and I said, "Well, why did you do that?" Well, he wasn't comfortable. Well, at any rate, he told me that he had sent the letter directly to you, and that the letter contained a bunch of information that this supposed brother had been claiming that the organization, based on his interpretation of Bible prophecy, was soon going to go down the tubes and so forth. And in the process of this, he was saying something like, people should listen to him and his interpretation of prophecy and all kinds of really crazy stuff. And I don't know this guy. He just seems to be an anonymous person that puts information on the internet. But I was informed that the guy, that the person who sent the letter and put the person's real name in the letter. I was curious if you had ever gotten that.
It may have. I don't know
Okay.
when he sent it.
Well,
I've been away in Europe on 2 trips, and
Okay.
sometime when I'm away, while they save some of the mail and then others has to be handled, so they just take care of it.
Oh, I see.
But
I
if it's
see.
anonymous, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
They read that letter, but if it's anonymous, they can't answer it.
Okay.
They don't know who to direct their attention to.
Sure. Well, at any rate, that's the kind of thing. I mean, I keep seeing this from various sources that the organization is coming under attack.
Well, we know eventually it's going to come under an all-out attack.
Sure.
And that's bound to be, because we know there's got to be a head-on collision eventually. The kingdom organization, you see, keeps moving ahead. Like the Bible says, they're going to fight against you. They're not going to prevail against you, because I'm with you, saith Jehovah, to deliver you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been the case, because right back to the book of Genesis, there's going to be hostility or enmity to the serpent. And the serpent, if he knows his time is short, he's enraged. And he goes forth to make war against the woman and the remaining number of her seed. And that's in Revelation 9:17. Well, we can see that. And the devil, if he knows his time is short, he's going to use everything at his disposal in order to make an all-out attack.
Mm-hmm.
But if it wasn't for Jehovah's backing, like Paul says, if God is for us, who can be against us? You see, his support is what counts. And he's going to see the organization through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. On this attack theme, someone from Canada informed me that they saw over the weekend a story that was on Canadian Broadcasting Company satellite TV that was on Jehovah's Witnesses, and in this, I only got the barest little bit of information, but apparently they were in effect accusing Jehovah's Witnesses of being, how do you say it, of being friendly to pedophiles, which was
ridiculous.
Of course it is, but this is the kind of thing that I that may come out of this churning of people who are, against the organization. I don't know how widespread this story was, but the guy told me that it was broadcast a number of times over the weekend.
Well, a lot of that may be fed. It's just like last year, the Times, and somebody who's apparently deviated from the faith or apostate. They picked the story up, then later on they found out the source was unreliable, and so they had to quash it. They had to publish a retraction.
Hmm.
But you see, many times the news media will pick something up and not check the reliability of the source, whether it's authentic or not,
Hmm.
and then they publicize it. But if they would get the facts straight initially, well, then it would spare them a lot of explanation later on when people write in and say, well, where did you get this information? It's certainly not the position that Jehovah's Witnesses take.
Sure.
And anybody who reads our literature knows that we're not friendly to pedophiles because it's a detestable practice. And it's something that should not be tolerated.
Sure. Well, of course. With regard to that, I've read a number. I've read a number of accusations that say that the society does not go far enough in its policies of protecting pedophiles. I'm sorry, of protecting children against pedophiles. Do you feel that the society's policies are adequate in today's world?
Well,
I'm asking you.
Policy, like I mentioned before, is Bible-based.
Sure.
See, the scriptures say, do not go beyond the things that are written. We can't add to what the scriptures say. We can't take away from what the scriptures say. We have to accept the whole counsel of God. Now, that may be at variance with the way people view matters, because whether it's doctrine, makes light of what God says. It's His thinking, it's His voice, it's His authority that counts. We can't substitute or change or twist the scriptures. That's what Christendom does. They adulterate the Word of God. So if we follow Bible principles, we follow a balanced course. But we don't go to extremes one way, nor do we go to extremes another way. But there's one thing sure. As the Apostle Paul, I think it's in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, he made it very clear cut as to our position. It says, do not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers. And he said, what fellowship does light have with darkness? Or what sharing does light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial? In other words, you can't compromise the truth. You can't compromise the faith. And that's why in the latter part of that chapter, he says, get out from among them and separate yourselves and quit touching the unclean thing, and I will take you in. Jehovah does not welcome unclean persons into his organization. He expels them. Now, that's not what the religious organizations do. You see, they allow them, no matter what they do, as long as they're good paying members, they remain in good standing in the congregation. That cannot be in Jehovah's organization.
Sure. Well,
you're straining your relationship with Jehovah, and then you strain your relationship with the organization.
Sure.
So pedophiles or any practicer of what is wrong, he's then no longer in harmony with Jehovah. It's impossible for him to be in line with Jehovah's thoughts.
Sure. We all know about the famous problems that the Catholic Church has had with pedophile priests and all that.
Yeah. And you see, they transfer them from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, it's with you. I didn't, you mentioned you're a good friend of Michael Araxi. And are you out, you're in the Fort Collins congregation?
I'm in this area, yeah, but I've been inactive as a witness for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my family are still witnesses, and I have an awful lot of friends who are. And
we hope that you can, reestablish your relationship with the organization, because there's so much, that we can miss out on if we're not, absorbed in it. Things like the Apostle Paul says, be absorbed in it. In other words, we're all wrapped up with the truth. It's the center of our life. We build our life around it. And that's what gives us the right perspective on any problem that comes along, helps us to make proper decisions, because to negotiate our way in this system at the present time, the way it is not easy. It's like that narrow road that leads to life.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to adhere strictly to Bible principles. The broad way gives you plenty of latitude to do whatever you want. And that's where people sometimes, the spirit of independence is so strong. While we can act as free moral agents, we cannot be independent from Jehovah, because once you cut yourself off from him, what can we do? It's like Jesus said, apart from me, you can do nothing at all. In other words, we're like severed from the trunk, and we can't produce good fruit. So he says, I am the vine, you are the branches. He that remains in union with me, and I in union with him, this one bears much fruit.
Mhm.
Apart from me, you can do nothing. So we have to do it in conjunction with the organization. And the nation as a lifeline, Christ as a head. And if we're close to it, you fare so much better. You find that you're more content. It gives you ease of mind. And the Bible says godliness with contentment is great gain. It's a wonderful way of life.
Mhm.
And even when problems come or pressures come, you can withstand them. You see, you have the strength to do that
Mhm.
spiritually. So I'll mention to Michael that I had the chance to talk to you.
Okay.
I talk to him every once in a while. I give him a buzz and see how he's doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
What was your name again?
my name is Alan Feuerbacher.
Feuerbacher.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
it'll ring a bell right away.
Oh yeah. He knows me. He knows my parents very well, because I was in his congregation only for about 4 years, but my parents were for, oh boy, about 20 years.
Are they still living?
Oh yeah, they live in Florida right now. And
I think I came across that name when I was down in Florida.
well, when I say my parents, my real parents were divorced over 30 years ago, and then my mom came back in the truth and married another man, and he became an elder. So they've been. That's who I mean when I say my parents.
Yeah.
But
when I get down to Florida, I've been down there on special assembly days and district conventions. So
okay.
maybe they were around sometime where I was in Jacksonville, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, West Palm Beach.
Yeah, they probably would go to Tampa. That's probably the closest place, because they live about an hour east. No,
Are they in
yeah,
Lakeland?
no, they're about an hour east of Orlando, in near Melbourne.
Oh yeah, I know where that is. It's on the coast.
Yeah, it's right on the coast. Right. We visited them last week, my wife and I, so we had a nice time. Well, thank you very much for your time, Brother Jared. I really appreciate it, and I don't know if anything that I've said has been useful, but
well, I know we're aware of what the news media, what NBC had projected, but we don't know what they're going to say or what they're going to do. Well, we just wait and see.
Yeah, well,
whatever happens, Jehovah will direct our steps.
Yeah,
we let him guide and direct us in whatever course has to be taken.
Sure. Well, whatever happens, I just hope that it all works out, most especially so that children continue to be protected against these predators.
Because the Bible says children are a heritage of the Lord, you see, and parents should feel a big obligation and responsibility to train them in the right way and make sure that they're safeguarded, because there's a lot of dangers out there, and the youngsters, if they're corrupted in their youth, it ruins their life.
Exactly.
So we've got to do all that we can to help our young people.
Exactly.
And our parents too.
Oh yes, with aging parents. Yes, I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating more difficulties as my parents' health deteriorates. So, well, you know how it is.
Yeah, well, the Bible talks about, the calamitous years proceed to come. That's when old age comes, because there's a lot of other things that come along in the wake of advancing years.
Oh, sure. Well, anyway.
So we hope that things work out for you too, spiritually, and for your benefit and your family.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And, well,
good talking.
Okay, bye.
Well, you've been listening in here. That is a conversation. Alan Feuerbacher. Well, he big time Jehovah's Witness, not on the governing body or anything, but a man that knows a lot of the insiders. He knew, and in fact, is good friends with Barbara Anderson. But to make a long story short, you've been listening here for the last 40 minutes or so of a conversation Alan Feuerbacher had with Jarrett's. Now, we know that Ted Jarrett's is not Mr. Pristine Pure. He's had numerous issues in his life. Some have even accused him of being a child molester. In fact, one woman came on our program years ago here on the Six Screens. A woman by the name of Pat Gaza, and she lambasted Jarrett's. She claims that she was molested by him, and of course he denied it. But that's what her claim was, and I mean it was really a shocking call back then. 15, 20 years ago here on the Six Screens. But that that's the first time I really heard Jarrett's talking off the cuff, so to speak. He sounds like a very kind and gentle man, but man, he carries a big stick. Let me put it that way to you. He doesn't have the best reputation at Bethel, but that's who you've been listening to, and I found it very, very fascinating. And now, what they were talking about at the very outset, Firebacker was bringing up the fact. Now, this would have been prior to 2002, and Firebacker was bringing up the fact that Dateline NBC was going to air a program all about Jehovah's Witnesses. And of course, that's the program that Barbara Anderson was on. And that program really started the ball rolling, friends. Now, many of us back then in the year 2000, 2001, 2002, we didn't really have too much of an idea that the Watchtower was so involved with child sex abuse. But now we totally understand it. But back then it was something new. And many, even former Jehovah's Witnesses, including even myself, had a hard time believing it all. And then when word kind of passed around to the ex-witness community that Dateline was going to have a program on our program exposing the Jehovah's Witnesses, wow, I couldn't believe it. I was still going to the meetings at the time, but I was distancing myself. I could say, I didn't want much more to do with the Watchtower. So I can remember it was a Sunday afternoon at the Watchtower study, and I raised my hand, and I got kind of reprimanded for it, but I raised my hand during the Watchtower study, and I said, well, brothers and sisters, you might really be interested in what I'm going to say. I said this during the Watchtower study. I said that, this week on Dateline on Thursday night, they're going to have a special all about Jehovah's Witnesses, and you might want to tune in and see it. So I've been seeing it advertised. So by all means, check it out when Dateline comes on this week. So after the meeting, I mean, that was kind of a shocking statement to the congregation, right? So after the meeting, I was, approached by an elder, and the elder says to me, Rick, why'd you bring that up about Dateline? I says, well, brother, I thought people would want to hear it. After all, this, we're all Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's going to be on national TV. He says, well, what do you think the program's going to be about? And I said, well, the program, from what I understand, is going to be all about sexual misconduct, pedophilia in Jehovah's organization. Then he says to me, well, you don't believe that, do you, Brother Farron? And I said, well, Jimmy, I haven't seen Dateline yet. But when I saw Dateline, I have to tell you, I was convinced beyond any reason of any doubt that Jehovah's Witnesses Watchtower organization is hiding and covering up child molestation. Now that's over. Well, that's 20 years ago. 20 years ago. And look what's happened in 20 years. Look at all the exposure Jehovah's Witnesses have had. All of the child molesters. Look what's going on in Pennsylvania right now. Boy, every congregation is being investigated. Friends, this is still the tip of the iceberg. Well, if you'd like to comment on what you heard here tonight on those tapes, that particular tape, well, go ahead and call in. Don't be a stranger. Hit *6 and tell me what you gathered. Tell me. Yes, go ahead, Stefan.
All right, so just a quick thought. It's too bad that the world wasn't the way it is now when this brother was asking those questions, because what I heard was a lot of misdirection and misinformation. He would ask him questions that he really never got an answer to. This Ted Jarrett's character basically just kind of stood behind the Bible and started repeating the same old tired scriptures that we all know. You would think you're talking to a so-called governing body member. They're supposed to have this direct connection to Jesus and to God, that they'd have something more substantial to say than just the average old Jehovah's Witness, but they don't. And that shows you that this religion is a man-made concoction. But at the end of the day, this gentleman got no answers of any significance to his questions. He just got a bunch of misdirection. And that's how this organization is operated. And very briefly, the thing that really irked me was when Jarrett said, oh, well, we can't go beyond the things that are written. Watchtower goes beyond the things that are written all the time. These latest changes were corrections to Watchtower's policies, because Watchtower didn't say, or the Bible doesn't say you couldn't have a beard, ladies can't wear a beard. It doesn't say any of these things about turning in time, but yeah, Watchtower enforce those things. Watchtower goes beyond what is written all the time. So this is just the normal bullshit that Watchtower teaches. This man got no answers to his questions. And I just hope that anybody that's heard this, you can really see what this organization is all about. Thank you.
Well, Stefan, thank you for being so astute and on the ball. That's exactly what I got from it. Now, this Jarrett's character, he sounds so meek and so biblical and, really very persuasive, but he's not. He's a creep. He's a goon. He's been accused of child molestation. He's got serious problems. A lot of people didn't like him. But boy, he comes across with scriptures and how the organization follows the Bible. But you're right, Firebacker did not get any answers really. But I don't know if Firebacker was really looking for answers. I think what Firebacker was doing, just like us apostates are doing today, he was very coy. He was very collective. He approached the situation just trying to bring Jarrett into the conversation. And Jarrett did come in, but not genuinely. He was disingenuous. Jarrett's, it was smooth. See, this is what they do. This is what the governing bodies like. They're smooth characters. They can kind of turn things around. And you just heard a man that did that. That's what the Watchtower has been doing for years. Thank you, Stefan. Anyone else listen to that conversation? And anyone have any thoughts on it? Do you think this is... Did you want to speak up? Go ahead. You're on with us. All right. Well.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, who's this?
This is Fran.
Oh, hi, Fran.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, we had no idea that this was going on. Our son was at Bethel during 2000 to 2003. And, we just thought the governing body that they were the top. We never questioned them. This child molestation, we never heard anything about it. Never. We didn't know about Dateline. And it wasn't until like 3 years ago that we found out about it after being in it for 36 years. So, yeah, it's really disgusting, and appreciate the exposure that you present, that Barbara presented. And we know more and more people are leaving, and we're here to welcome them. If they don't know where to go or what to do, they're welcome, to call us or get in touch with us, because and others, because we connect people together. And people are really going through a hard time now. Even ones that have been out for a while, they're going through very hard times. So we appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Fran. Now, if anyone wants to get a hold of Fran and Joe, you can get a hold of me here at JW World News. And Fran and Joe would love to have you as their friend. Now, let me tell you something. There's nobody that I've ever met in the ex-witness world that has reached out to so many people as Fran and Joe. They are the meetup king and queen. They have done it. They have done a remarkable job on putting people together. There's a lot of people listening into this program tonight that have met Fran and Joe. And I still can't believe where they got the energy. Here they are, getting along in years. And 2 years ago, they got in their car and they drove clear across the United States, but stopped in. And I mean, sometimes went out of their way 200, 300, 400, 500 miles to see people. And they did this. And man, I couldn't believe it. I'm saying, where are these guys getting the energy? But they did it. And boy, I'll tell you, they put a lot of good friends together. Thank you, friend Joe.
Oh, well, thank you, Rick, and thank you for what you're doing. And we're enjoying the program.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Barbara couldn't be on with us tonight, but you gave me these tapes. Now, these are great tapes. They really, really are. They are very indicting. That particular one, it was about 40 minutes long. And I never really got a chance to really listen to Jarrett's up front and close, but boy, that guy is smooth. I mean, really, if you sat down, isn't he? You would think, if you sat down with him and said, gee, I'm thinking of leaving the Watchtower, he'd be a guy that could probably talk you back into staying,
Jeez. It's disgusting. It's just so artificial. And we just hate the fact that we were ever involved in that and that we believed it and we looked up to these people thinking that, yeah, they've got something special, governing body. They have a direct connection with Jesus and Jehovah. And they're horrible. And today you could never call up the governing body and talk to them. You probably wouldn't even get past the front desk.
No, you wouldn't. Now that I'm glad you brought that up. Because this firebarker, he's not a Bethelite, but he was, he was just a good elder Jehovah's Witness, from what I understand. But he knew a lot of people. He knew a lot of mucky mucks, and he knew friends of the mucky mucks. So that's what got him in the door. And, I'll tell you, I was even surprised that Jarrett stayed on the phone with him that long.
I was too. I was surprised too.
Yeah. Well, the strangest thing is, years ago, I got to be friends with Garrett Loesch, who was a governing body member today. And what it was concerning a question I had about the anointed. As everyone knows, I was one of the Jehovah's Witness anointed ones and a partaker. So what I was finding is that a lot of the outside anointed, people who are not in Bethel but were anointed, they were getting disfellowshipped all across America. And really, every time I talked to someone, I would go to conventions and I wanted to find other anointed ones because my former wife and I were ones. And so I was trying to find others to talk to. So I would take my lunch break at the conventions and I'd walk around the whole stadium and I would talk to people. Hi, I'm Brother Farron from Massachusetts. Do you know of any anointed ones? Oh yeah, we know Sister Smith, but she's an alcoholic. I mean, I got all of these crazy, and then I go to other people. Hi, I'm Brother Farron from Massachusetts. I'm in search of anointed ones. Do you have any anointed ones in your congregation? Well, I don't, but there's a man in the congregation next to us, and he's a complete wacko. I mean, this is the type. These were the type of answers I was getting. So I got fed up one day because I talked to 10 anointed ones, and nine of them were getting ready to be disfellowshipped. So I just called up. Yeah, I called up out of the blue once to see if I could speak to Garrett Loesch about it. This is back in the year. Well, this would have been around 2000, 1999, 2000. So I figured, I gotta get an answer to this. So just like Firebacker there, I called up Brother Loesch. I didn't expect he'd talk to me, but I talked to the girl that answered the phone, and I said, I want to speak to Brother Loesch. Well, who are you? Well, my name is Rick Farron, calling from Massachusetts, and I have a question about the anointed. I'd like to ask Brother Loesch. And she put me through. And then, then I got to know him. We talked on numerous occasions on the phone, and then he actually invited me to come down there, which was unreal. And I got to meet these guys up front and close. And boy, what a rude awakening I had. When I went down there, one time I thought this was God's spiritual paradise. But when I went down there, I said, this is nothing more than a business masquerading as a religion. Yeah, unreal.
Yeah.
Well,
Interesting
yeah.
stuff. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, well, thank you for chiming in tonight, Fran. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Joe just mentioned as far as chairs goes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Joe.
It's really insightful. I get the impression that that man knew that if he were to quickly brush off that individual, it would make him suspect, as if he was trying to hide something and avoid something.
So you
because
could read right through him, Joe.
You could read right through him.
Oh my goodness! Well, I read the account of what he did and how it was handled. I mean, the man is guilty of sin, and he knows it, and so does the other person talking to him know it. So it was like a little cat and mouse game that they were playing. And like you said, Jairus was smooth. He was absolutely criminal. And he was doing everything he could to paint himself as something that he was not. The level of psychopath behavior in that organization is just legendary. It really, really is. There's so much dishonesty, so much criminality, but it's being exposed now. It's being exposed, and I'm thankful that there's so many that are leaving, realizing that it's just a collection of criminals, and it's not a religion. And just like you said, you said that they're a business masquerading as a religion. I totally agree with you. And honestly, I believe that, and I really mean this, all religion is a criminal endeavor masking itself as a religion to hide probably the worst atrocities in the world, to actually hide the pedophilia that's just so part and parcel of every group of religions out there. Everywhere you go, you're going to find that. And the Catholic Church was so powerful in showing what they were made of. I mean, I was brought up Catholic in a Catholic grade school, Catholic high school. I saw what was going on. Well, that wasn't just in my area. I mean, this is something that happened around the world. They proven it to the world that as a body of people, that's what they're made of. They're made up of basically people that have that desire. That they have that desire for children in a way that's so bad, and frankly, religion is the perfect way to hide it. It might be a little difficult for some people to swallow, but religion is the perfect cloak to hide
What about
their criminality.
Rutherford?
Yeah, and honestly, I'll end at this, Rick, and say that I've come to view that Joseph Rutherford, Judge Joseph Rutherford, that frankly, he's my hero at this point. And I really mean this. He is the only one that told the truth and warned everybody when he said, religion is a snare and a racket. No truer words were ever spoken. He warned everybody. He informed everybody. He made it loud and clear. Religion is a snare and a racket. While at the same time they were building this snare and building this racket off of our backs. We were the ones that made that racket successful. We became the willing slaves for their corporation to make them money, believing that it was for God. And it was no such thing. It snared so many people. Just as Watchtower's done it, frankly, I'm convinced from whatever research I've done is that all religions are that way. They are. It's man's invention. Religion is government, the invention of government to control people on the deepest level that they can, and that is in a spiritual way. And it's the most dishonest thing in the world, and it's guilty of the deepest bad things.
Well, no doubt, Joe. You certainly made a good observation there. I agree with you with that. And not too long ago, a man said to me, he said, "Now, Rick, you sell signs all over this area of Massachusetts." He says, "Now, what is on the route that I live in? There's a lot of business on the route that I live in, the road, and for about 10 miles straight." So he says, "Rick, what's the biggest business that you contact or you go by in your sign business?" And he says, "You think the biggest business is Walmart?" He says, "You go by that. How about Home Depot? How about the General Motors dealership?" No, the biggest business on the road I live on is St. William's Church. It's a Catholic church. Their parking lot is packed on Friday night with bingo. They're constantly doing funerals and baptisms, and how the money rolls in, Joe and Fran. How the money rolls in,
Yeah. These guys are slick. They're smart. Look, this goes way back. The elite and the rich and the mighty have a taste for a very immoral taste and desire for what they shouldn't have. And there are those that know that make business out of supplying these rich people their immoral desires.
Well, you had a chance to listen to Ted Jarrett's Up Front and Close, and I know you made some good observations, Joe and Fran, and I'm with you 100%, and I'll go with what you said with Rutherford. It is a snare and a racket. As a matter of fact, we got another clip I'm going to play in a while, just a few minutes from now, and it deals with Rutherford. When Joseph Rutherford died, nobody came to his funeral. He had a son called Malcolm, and from what I understand, Malcolm did not even come to his own father's funeral. The man, nobody liked him. And so even when he died, of course, he died in California. He had that Beth Serene mansion in San Diego. And when he died, there was always, well, was his body shipped back to New York? Or did he, in fact, many thought that he was buried in a bomb shelter that Watchtower owned. A bomb shelter they named wasn't too far from Beth Serene, but they named it Beth Shan. And some say he was buried under the cement floor in the garage. We have a conversation coming up here next. You might want to hear that.
I've heard that, Rick. I'd love to hear it again.
Yeah, it's coming up next. Well, anyways, thank you, Joe and Fran. So does anybody else have any thoughts on that conversation between Firebacker and between Ted Jarrett's governing body member? But I'm going to tell you, I've heard a lot of smooth people in my life. That Jarrett is smooth. Oh, man, he is very smooth. And he knew darn well about the Dateline program. He kind of made it seem like the Firebacker, like, well, what are they going to be talking about? Jarrett's knew darn well what they were going to be talking about. But, that's the way he portrays himself. And that's the same way a lot of elders are as well. They're very coy like that. And they don't answer direct questions. All right, so why don't we do this? We have a tape here. Now, Barbara Anderson couldn't make it on tonight, so I'm kind of filling in for her. And what it is she sent me some tapes. She has some tapes in her collection that she wanted me to share with you. Now, these are tapes that nobody's ever heard before. These are clips that have been, hidden in Barbara's bookshelves. In fact, Barbara has a whole room filled with Watchtower articles and magazines and tapes. And she has some of these clips. And, Barbara, when I spoke to Barbara Anderson a couple of years ago, she actually wanted to come on and have a program here on the Six Screens. She says, Rick, I want to put my footprints out there. I want people to have access to some of the information that I have had access to. So we want to thank Barbara for sharing some of this. And it goes into the archive. It'll be there for people to listen to for a long time, forever perhaps. So we're going to play a clip right now. This is a clip between a Watchtower attorney. His name is Covington. Clayton, I believe his name was Clayton, I'm not sure, but his last name is Covington. But he's a lawyer for the Watchtower. And I want to have you hear what he has to say about the burial place of Rutherford. So I'm just downloading this right now, and we'll get it to play here for you. So listen in.
Did he want to be buried out at San Diego? Well, he had no desire to be buried any place, but he, the thing was, he knew he was dying and had to be buried, and he was sensible enough to know that he didn't want to have his bones hauled all the way back to Brooklyn. So he suggested that.
So that is Hayden. I'm sorry, that's his name, Hayden Covington. Hayden Covington. He was a lawyer for the Watchtower, and of course he knew Rutherford. He knew all the big mucky mucks at the Watchtower. And so what you're hearing here, that is Hayden Covington. And he is talking about the burial place of Rutherford. He's going to try to put that to rest. For many people, they've been speculating for years. But listening closely, you'll find out where Rutherford is buried. Hold on.
When the time comes for us to bury him, he's buried there. And we tried to get him buried on the Bessarum property, and there was a big property in behind there on Montezuma Road, and then Brother Heath had that big house over across the way that his mother had given him money to build, a great big house. Very, I think it cost about $500,000 to build and duplicate now, or more. So we then tried to get him buried there at that property, and they turned us down. The board there in San Diego, they wouldn't lie. They didn't want him buried anywhere. It was so much hostility and hatred against the judge, and the authorities just turned us down every turn we took. And I filed a lawsuit then in the courts out there in San Diego, for a man that they call a writ of mandate to force them to let us bury him out there on that property someplace. And Judge Mundo, who was the judge of the Superior Court that heard it, why then he passed the buck, jumped from one thing to the other, and one technicality, and finally, after looking at the matter in a reasonable way, we all, that is Bill and Bonnie and Nathan and all of us, decided, well, we have fought enough on this, and it looks like it's the Lord's will that we take his body back to Brooklyn and have him buried in Staten Island, which we did, not back to Brooklyn, but back to, how they, so Bill and Bonnie went on the train with his body, and Fred and Nathan and I had already come back and were working. I was trying to get his bones under the ground by legal mandate, and we couldn't get it. So there was just no other thing to do except take it, and we did. And that ended that. He was laughing down from heaven. Trying to get his bones buried. He was probably pleased. Decided to let it go. Let her go.
Didn't I ever teach them boys anything, you know?
Yeah.
He probably couldn't see how that was connected with him. Of course, you love the man, Steve.
Oh, my, yeah.
See, and that's why it was important to you.
Well, we wanted to do his will as best we could, not his will, but for Jehovah's will, and it didn't seem he had to be buried someplace.
Yeah.
It wasn't reasonable to haul his body all the way across the country. And we finally had to do that, so that was the bad part about it, you see.
How long did it take by train to go from?
Well, it took about 2.5, 3 days, yeah. 3 days.
3 days.
2.5 days from San Diego, and I made that trip a lot of times, you know. I mean, from New York to San Diego, sure. It takes 2.5 days.
That's day and night.
Yeah. On the Pullman, of course, we rode Pullman. We went first class. Brother Rutherford told me, he says, I don't want you, whenever you travel, I want you to travel first class. So I did. Brother Heath did, and Nathan did too. All of us did. Freddie. And
Yeah, because you needed your rest. And
well, not only
to be as
that,
comfortable as you
yeah,
could too.
sure. It's not our comfort, but we were entitled to the laborers where they desire.
Well, there you have it. So it looks like you could say Rutherford was buried in Staten Island, New York. So, that's an interesting clip. For many years, people have wondered about that. But now, finally, we're getting some really interesting tapes that Barbara Anderson is sending me. And we certainly appreciate Barbara's effort in doing that. Well, you're on the Six Screens Barbara Anderson program. This is Rick Farron filling in for Barbara. And I have to tell you that we are seeing momentum. We are seeing so many people that are leaving the Watchtower right now. But, one thing that got, as I mentioned at the very outset of the program, one thing that really got a lot of people to leave the Watchtower organization back when the time that I kind of left back in 2005, it was audio clips. Today we have, a lot of video clips on YouTube and Facebook, but audio clips that help so many people. I remember the Charles Sonetko clip, Still Alive or Stay Alive in 1975. And how that was a convention talk. And I heard that clip, and that was enough for me. I mean, really, when you stop and think about it, he was telling people Armageddon was coming in 1975. It's right there. It's an embarrassment to the Watchtower. And then, of course, I mentioned a clip earlier with Franz and how he had a talk in Yankee Stadium. No new additions. Speaking about the Anointed. And the Anointed was cut off in 1935. Well, that never proved to be true. Like I said last year at the Memorial for Jehovah's Witnesses, there was 21 million people who partook. So, some of these clips are embarrassment. And what we heard here tonight, especially that one with Jairus, that really was a fascinating, very interesting clip to me, as we did have people call in and comment on it. Well, anyways, I found it kind of fascinating. We'll have Barbara come back with us in a couple of weeks. There's more tapes. She's got a whole lot of them, and she's going to keep sending them to me. And they'll be in the archives. This program will be in the archives, and we hope to get as many clips as we possibly can. So we really appreciate it. Well, before we close out our program and go to JW World News, does anybody have any thoughts at all on audio clips? Were you brought out of the Watchtower? Did it help you leave the Watchtower organization by clips you heard? I know a lot in the last 10 years have come out because of videos. There's so many people on YouTube with videos. But how about a sound clip? Has a sound clip ever brought you out of the organization? Well, I'll tell you what, back in 2005, when Satan kicked me out of his organization, that's the Watchtower, of course, I had a judicial committee hearing. And I was the first one, not being braggadocious here, but I was the first one ever in the history of the ex-witness Jehovah's Witness movement to actually have a tape. I had my judicial hearing on tape. I had a secret recorder in the room, and that brought in very close to 1 million. In fact, I believe it was over 1 million people listened to that tape. So it's amazing to me how many people listen to that. I even had people say that they really left the organization because of listening to that tape. So clips can be a powerful, powerful way to move people out of falsehood. So you heard one tonight. You heard one tonight that would really raise one's eyebrows with this Ted Jarrett's character, typical Jehovah's Witness man, typical governing body member, and just kind of smooch everything over. Well, I want to thank you all, unless anyone has any comments. I want to thank you all for coming in to Six Screens, Watchtower Insider. Barbara Anderson tells all. We'll get Barbara back with us in 2 weeks. And Barbara, if you're listening in, we hope you're doing better. I know that as we talked this week, you're out raking the yard. You got a whole lot of acreage down there in Tennessee. It was filled with leaves, and I guess you kind of threw your back out a little bit. So I hope your back gets better. Thank you, Barbara Anderson. Thank you all for coming in. We really appreciate your presence. Now, don't you guys be strangers. Stay with us now because we got JW World News coming up next. Good night now. Going to end the stream right here.